Welcome to Seahawks Forever, everybody. My name is Dan Viens. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you for being here. Hit that subscribe button, that thumbs up if you like what you see and hear. Tonight, I just thought we would hang. We do this occasionally. You know, I spend an inordinate number of hours a day, every day, stressing out about trying to come up with the perfect topic for any given video or live stream. Tonight, I just wanted to hop on here and just take your temperature. See how you're doing. 24 hours now, 24 and a half hours away from kickoff as we get set to go at 8 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow in Santa Clara. Seahawks, 49ers, everything on the line. We're going to talk about just how big this game is, and I mean in historical, in a historical mean. Our friend Mookie Alexander from the Seahawks Syndicate came up with that idea today, and I think it's pretty compelling. We'll take a look at a new metric. It might not be new, but it's new to me, something I saw today about teams and how good they are defensively in one-score games. I think that's pretty interesting. Of course, we'll get the latest on the injury situation, the final injury report, who's in, who's out, who's maybe, who's probable. And why is there a massive misconception out there about one particular player, whether or not he's going to play? I'll let you hear from Mike McDonald today as well about some of the injured players as we try to get better at deciphering what he is up to and how he approaches these injuries, or at least frames them to us. And then you see the background here. So that is not quite a full moon. I know it looks like one. It's not quite one. This is just outside my place tonight, by the way. Snap this picture, one try, no filter. Tomorrow night, it's going to be full for the game. And it's not just going to be a full moon, it's going to be a wolf moon. And no, the Seahawks are not wearing their wolf gray uniforms. They don't have those anymore. But I'll tell you why that is significant and why it likely favors the Seahawks tomorrow in Santa Clara. Let's get into this. This is Seahawks Forever.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
Take care of this right off the top. It is coming right down to it. The final week of the year for the Seahawks Forever Sleeper Pick'em League. There's about 35 of you in there. And it is touch and go. Rainier 23 holding on to a slim lead right now, tied with Chiefs with 160 points. C. Hawkinson and me tied right behind them. The winner will be determined next week, and the winner gets to pick whatever they want out of the new merch store. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But the Sleeper app is the best sports app out there. If you haven't checked it out, now is the best time. It's not just football. If you think, well, football is winding down, it's going to be over in 6 weeks. It covers all the other sports. What can you do? You can play fantasy sports. You get news, breaking news, updates, and notifications. And if you can't get to a television set during a big game, if you're stuck at work tomorrow and you can't watch the game on your phone, well, the Sleeper app has the best real-time play-by-play tracking of any app or website out there. And with each and every play, the delay, first of all, is the least that I've ever seen. You can also react to each and every play and even chat with the other members of the community in there. But if you like to get into games of skill, well, that's legal in 30 states now with Sleeper, and they're going to get you started by just handing you $20 just for signing up. No deposit necessary, but if you do want to make a deposit, they're going to match that first one up to $100, 100% if you use the promo code FOREVER. So check out the Sleeper app today. All right, you guys, let's do this first. Let's get into the latest on the injury report. Charles Cross ruled out today. We'll hear from Mike McDonald in just a second. Some more clarity and context on that. Kobe Bryant listed as doubtful. Josh Jones as questionable after limited participation yesterday. Same for Kobe Bryant. Team left for Santa Clara today. In fact, they might be there by now, actually. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's just get into the video. It's about 2 minutes long. This is Mike McDonald talking today to the media about the injuries. And look, it took us 15 years, but we think we figured out Pete Carroll's language and tone and intentions when he was talking about injuries and trying to predict exactly how serious or not serious an injury was. Of course, the best news on this injury list is Rashid Shaheed, full participation the last 2 days, cleared the concussion protocol. He is good to go tomorrow. That is great news. But McDonald's kind of evolved in this area. He can be coy, and I do think that he absolutely uses any opportunity he can to try and play cat and mouse and be strategic in what he does and doesn't say so that the other team doesn't know exactly what's going on. And I think it might be working. I'll tell you why after this. This is Mike McDonald today talking about the injuries. I'll try to turn it up when the reporters are asking questions, but I think you can kind of get the gist.
Good. He's progressing. Yeah.
Talking about is he playing for you?
It's questionable if he's going to play. I just look. I mean, he's progressing.
See, that's it. When McDonald smiles, sometimes he can't hide it. Josh Jones is absolutely going to play in this one. I've got more on that in a second.
Injury report is what it is. We'll stick with it right now.
What progress has Torrey Horton made, if any? Is he getting closer?
Yeah, we got some clarification on Torrey. It's just the best way I can describe it is what he has is just it just takes a long time to heal, and so it's really put it this way, we're planning on not having him, and if something happens, which we're not counting on, and he's able to come back, then that's great. But right now we're planning on not having him, so just needs time and rest. So it's unfortunate, but these things happen. So we're with him. He's doing a great job. We're just not going to have him right now.
It seems like, and this has been speculated by some for the last couple of weeks, that it's some sort of fracture in the lower leg, some sort of crack, broken bone fracture in that shin. And read the other day from an orthopedic surgeon that this is often common in post ACL recovery, that it may have something to do with favoring one leg over the other, and that sort of the trickle down effect is that often some of these shin fractures can occur. So it sounds like no more Torrey Horton for 2026. Really promising rookie season. Got off to a great start with 5 touchdowns and the punt return. Lot to look forward to next year, but cannot count on Torrey Horton anymore this year.
Back, a lot of times it's got to go to protocol. They can't get out that quickly.
Yeah.
Not talking about
To my understanding, it was, it was a good exam right there at the game. So I know he's confident on where he's at and feels great, and he's had a good week. So, I think he's in a good spot.
Could Quandre Diggs play for you if needed? No.
He could. Yeah. I mean, he's coming back from his injury as well. So we're working through that.
And how's Kobe doing?
Kobe's doing well. He's just he's done as much as he can this week, and then we'll just keep going.
Generally.
So those two things obviously tied together. If Kobe Bryant can't go tomorrow, there's a chance that they could elevate Quandre Diggs from the practice squad to be active tomorrow. Now, remember, when you're on the practice squad, the team is not required by the league to have to list you in any way on the injury report. And so, again, McDonald kind of being not really giving away too much there, but I felt like there was enough confidence there in the way he was speaking that there's a possibility we might see Quandre Diggs available on game day. And I'm thinking about, I should have checked this, but wasn't a game against the San Francisco 49ers, maybe even at San Francisco, one of the first games Diggs played after Schneider acquired him from the Lions mid-season, the year that they got him. I feel like his first pick as a Seahawk might have been against the Niners. I could be wrong, but if any of you know, let me know in the comments.
This is Charles made working back too. I know he's not playing for you this weekend.
Yeah, we're optimistic for next
Talking more about Charles Cross
week or the week after for Charles. So I think, these guys have done a great job getting back and working, but obviously Charles is going to make it this week.
So I think more good news than bad there. And it really is remarkable how healthy this team is this time of year. I haven't gone through all the other rosters with a fine-tooth comb, but they may be the healthiest team heading into week 17 and the playoffs, which is always a good thing. They've had key injuries along the way, but they haven't stacked up. There was that spell where they were missing Julian Love and Reek Woolen. And then there was a time when DeMarcus Lawrence was out. At the same time, Jaron Reed was out, I believe. But they've been able to weather that storm through depth and the fact that the injuries haven't all stacked up and just taken out one position group. Looked like that might happen if Shaheed wouldn't have been able to go this week, but luckily he's going to be able to go. The Josh Jones thing is kind of crazy. There's an assumption out there that he's not going to play, and I think it's wishful thinking. I just saw one of the big 49er content creators with tons and tons of subscribers and a huge following on Twitter came out about an hour ago and said, great news, 49er fans. The Seahawks are going to be down to their third string left tackle, undrafted rookie Amari Kite. That gives the 49ers struggling pass rush an opportunity. No. No. Josh Jones is going to play. Let's recap. He didn't miss a single snap on Sunday against Carolina. I watched the last drive over again today. I didn't see him limping, never went to the blue tent, never got checked on the sideline. It was only the next day that we found out he was hurt when he showed up on the estimated injury report. And then on Wednesday, Mike McDonald said he was just banged up, his exact words, and they had Josh Jones speak at the podium. They don't do that if you're not going to play. And then he's smiling today, trying to be coy, but he couldn't hold it. Josh Jones is absolutely going to play, and I expect him to play every snap on, tomorrow. So wishful thinking maybe on the part of the 49er faithful, but Josh Jones is going to play, and he's played well enough in Charles Cross, about as well as you can expect from a backup tackle in games this big. And then the best news, of course, was McDonald saying they expect to get him back next week or the week after. Now, when that first came out, when Greg Bell and Michael Sean Dugar and those guys were tweeting from this press conference, the first thing I saw was a quote from him that they expect to have him back for the playoffs. Now, that's not what he said here. So I don't know if he said that at another time or if it was misinterpreted a little bit because this was less definitive. If they don't get the bye, maybe it's a game time decision type thing next week. But let's at least hope that Josh Jones gets through this game and comes out of it healthy. A couple of the things that I saw today that I thought were really interesting, and I want to throw your way before I just open it up, and we're just going to talk about this, is, first of all, let's check in on the latest point spread. Seahawks up to 2.5 point favorites. They opened at 1.5. At one point, it was down to 1. I saw in some services. Now it's up to 2.5. I assume that some of that money was coming in based on the news that Trent Williams, it sounds like he's not going to play tomorrow. If it's possible, even by now, as I sit here speaking to you tonight, that he's been ruled out. But I would imagine that that if that hasn't happened, that the 49ers would then also kind of play a little cat and mouse with that as well and try to keep the Seahawks guessing all the way up to game time. ESPN's matchup predictor, about as close you can get. They've got the 49ers with a slight edge in this one, 50.9% to 48.7%. A couple of the stats that caught my eye today I want to throw at you. One, and I know this chart's a little hard to see here. Let me get this frame out of the way. What this is it's a compilation of all the key metrics for offense and defense. You can see along the top, drop back offense, drop back defense, rush defense. And what they measure is success rate, explosive play rate, yards per play, first down rate, and turnover rate. And there's the Seahawks sitting at number one with almost a 30-point lead in the aggregate of all those things added up together over the second place team, the Rams. Only 2 boxes in red. Of course, the turnover rate on their drop back offense, they're 31st in the league on that one. And then their success rate running the football, 21st in the league. Although they're 4th in explosive plays. But you just see right across there, just really speaks to the quality, the overall quality and balance of this team. Now, somebody replied when I retweeted this a couple hours ago and said, now do weeks 11 through 17. To which it took me about a half a second to reply with, well, okay, let's do that for every team. Like, that's how football goes. It's fluid and it evolves as the season goes along. Teams get better or worse. But after 16 games in the NFL, we know who these teams are. We don't know them well enough to just be able to say that team's going to beat that team. That's not how football works. You have to show up, and anyone who's ever listened to my stuff before knows that this is what I truly believe. It's who plays the best. But when you have 2 teams like the Seahawks and the 49ers who are so evenly matched, and by evenly matched, I mean strength against strength, weakness against weakness. Seahawks offense has struggled the last 6 weeks, but they're going up against a defense that's struggling about as bad as any defense in the league and absolutely cannot rush the passer. And then, of course, you have the Seahawks elite defense against the 49ers elite offense. That usually lends itself to really good games. But after 16 games, this is a snapshot of who this team is as a whole. If you're going to look at this and say, well, but the last 6 weeks, they're not okay. Well, you could say maybe some of the same things about the Rams who've lost 2 of their last 4. You can talk about some teams that got off to really good starts and then backslid. You can talk about teams that stunk at the beginning of the year, a team like Jacksonville that got better as the year goes along, and now they sit 4th in these rankings. Well, they weren't 4th at midseason, were they? So, yeah, you can make an argument that, there's hot teams and there's cold teams. But I think, stats like DVOA and when you take a composite like this along a bunch of different metrics and compile them at one, your margin for error is a little bit less. You're just going to get a clearer picture. And then this is one I'd never seen before. This is EPA per play allowed by defenses in 1-score situations. In other words, how good are these defenses playing in tight games when the chips are down, when you have to get stops? Look who's number 1, the Seahawks, followed by the Eagles, and then there's the Texans with their outstanding defense, the Rams right behind them. Some of the usual suspects, Vikings, Chargers, Browns, good defenses. Broncos are up there. Now you look down a little further, and there's the 49ers down there at 30, 29, 28, 27, at 24th. So what does that mean? Does that mean they haven't been very good at playing with 1-score leads or in 1-score games? Well, yeah, when you look at some of the defensive metrics, that makes sense. All right, and then the final thing before we get to your conversation, I want to talk some more about this, and which is tomorrow night is going to be a wolf moon. Had a little hunch, had a thought. Sometimes I get those. And I thought, is there some sort of legendary meaning to the wolf moon? And indeed there is. So there's a couple different ways to look at this. Let me just read a couple things to you that I found online. It's fitting that this game falls under a wolf moon because it's a symbol of survival, resilience, and making it through the harshest stretch of the season. There was one thing I found in particular. Winning ugly in harsh conditions. Something about the winter. Shoot, I have so many notes here. Letting go of what won't survive winter. That's what it is. Folklore says the wolf moon exposes what's weak or unnecessary and letting go of what won't survive winter. Old habits, false paths, unsustainable commitments. Folklore says this moon doesn't reward flash. It rewards discipline, instinct, and the ability to capitalize when conditions are toughest. And if that's the test, the hawk might be the predator best built for the night. The wolf moon doesn't favor the loudest pack. It favors the sharpest hunter. I think the Seahawks have proven all season long against good teams, that no matter how bad things might get, how muddy the waters might get, they're able to overcome it and pull through. They believe they can overcome anything, and they've shown it. I just thought that was really cool. Thought that was kind of fun. All right, guys, let's see what we got over here. Let's see. Thanks for being here, by the way. I know a bunch of you I can see already were also in the Seahawks Syndicate last night, and sometimes we can't get to every single comment from there. So hopefully we can get to quite a bit of them here. I called this an anxiety check. I think you can call it a confidence check as well. I started the week trying to be pragmatic and rational and convince myself that I shouldn't get too high for this game. Now I'm ready to roll, and I am really, really confident. I just feel good about where this team is and who they are and how ready they are for this challenge. Hawkline Heritage. I have anxiety about every game, but in terms of the matchup, I'm pretty confident. Misfit, good to see you. LFG Seahawks. Charles says, I hope Josh Jones is ready to go. I think he said that before. We talked about that. Hank calls the 49ers frauds. It's pretty hard to convince. Well, you're not going to be able to convince me. First of all, Hank, I don't like that word. I think early in the season you can use that word. But again, after 16 games, we know who these teams are. And as long as the 49ers roll out that offense with that quarterback and that play caller and that running back, they're not frauds. They can overcome their bad defense and beat anybody if they just get that offense rolling. Holy hand grenade stuck at Firestone. Hopefully it's a minor repair and you get out of there and you're not stuck carless for a while. Kickup says, no player really scares me on the 49ers except Kyle Shanahan. You're not scared of Brock Purdy? He's playing as well as any quarterback in the league right now. Yeah. Elena says, nervous the defense won't be able to save this offense. They can't play lights out every game. We've scored mostly off good field position. That wasn't the case in the Rams game. The Rams were rolling, and Stafford was rolling up yardage, ends up throwing for 450 yards. And then what happened in the second half? 5 straight punts. The Seahawks got stops when they needed to get stops against an offense that at times this year has been elite, and against a quarterback that is going to be an MVP finalist and was playing lights out. So yeah, they have come up big when they've needed to in big games against good teams without getting the benefit of good field position. In fact, we gave up 2 scores to them by giving them a short field in that game on Sam Darnold interceptions. Hank says, Witherspoon and Nwosu will have a pick, and I feel like Nwosu's pick will be to the house. I imagine there's a couple of guys that are probably most excited to play in this game. And fortunately, they're all on the defensive side of the football, right? And Uchenna Nwosu is one of them. He wasn't ready to go week 1. He didn't get to play against the 49ers in this one. In fact, back then, there were a lot of people that were thinking, they should cut weight. He's never going to get healthy. Stop holding up a roster spot. Let him go get somebody, whatever. Thank goodness they didn't, because Uchenna Nwosu has been as good this year as he ever was before the injury. He's been a real key to that defense, and he's going to be a real key in trying to contain Brock Purdy, keep him in the pocket, and also slow down Christian McCaffrey. What is it, 27 straight games now this team has gone without giving up a 100-yard rusher? The other one's Derek Hall. He's going to be chomping at the bit to go in this game because he didn't get to play last week, and he's pissed off about the whole suspension thing. So we have our entire allotment of edge rushers for this one. And then Nick Emenwari. Week 1, he gets injured on the 5th play of the game after a big run stop, and we didn't see him again for 5 weeks. So he had some pretty boisterous things to say about the 49ers and how much he's looking forward to playing them. Put your money where your mouth is, kid. It's time to go. And if George Kittle's able to go, that's going to be a tough matchup for him. He hasn't really covered tight ends all that well, but I look for Emenwari to make an impact tomorrow and come up with a couple of big plays at some point. Charles D 6060 says, I'm not stressing. Sure, it would be nice to win the division and get the first seed, but I don't believe it changes anything if they don't. Remember, The Seahawks are locked into the 5 seed if they lose, which means they would either travel to Carolina or Tampa Bay. It is, in my opinion, and I think most people agree, the most favorable first-round matchup if you do have to go on the road. That Tampa Bay team has really struggled in the second half. I wouldn't expect that offense to be able to have the success they did against us in week 5. And that defense is really, really vulnerable. And then that Carolina game we saw, they're just not explosive enough. And the Seahawks actually didn't really play very well in the first half, certainly not on offense. So I think they would kind of relish the chance if they had to go on the road, if they had to go play as the 5th seed, I think they would relish the chance to put a better performance on the field against the Panthers. Andy says he's nervous about left tackle, but again, I think it looks like 734. Looks like he came in with this comment before I talked about Josh Jones. He's going to play, and he's played well. And where did I put that? Hold on. I did this yesterday. Just a quick little tally. Here's the 49ers pass rush, you guys. 18 sacks on the entire season. Only 18. Dead last in the NFL. And you know how many of those sacks are from players that are actually going to play tomorrow? 12 and a half. Less than 1 a game. I'm no math whiz. But they are dead last in sacks. They are dead last in quarterback hit rate. They don't even hit the quarterback. They are 31st in pressure rate. They are 29th in pass rush win rate. So that's 2 different analytics sites that look at things different way. Pass rush win rate comes from Next Gen Stats, where they track the GPS chips. And if you beat your block in 2.5 seconds or less, it's counted as a win. They're 29th in that category. And they don't blitz either. They're 29th in blitz rate. So they just don't put any pressure on the quarterback. They just don't. And that bodes well for an offensive line that has been dramatically improved in pass protection, even though there have been more sacks the last 6 weeks than there were the first half of the season. They are on pace to allow half as many sacks as they did a year ago. Half. And they've lived in the 45 to 50 sack range for a number of years now. They're on pace for 24, 25 sacks. That's a remarkable improvement. Sam should have the opportunity to operate this offense tomorrow. Smaller 1211. Thank you for the donation. Really appreciate it. I'm slightly concerned that McDonald has chosen to lean on the defense, thus making the offense focus on running the clock over big plays. Also, I can't wait to see a Seahawk do the Dougie after picking off Purdy. Be interesting to see. I could see maybe if one of the defensive guys picked him off and took it to the house, maybe you mock that Dougie a little bit. Look, I don't think McDonald is out there telling Clint Kubiak to be conservative. I don't. What made this offense so good the first 11 weeks is explosive play rate. They still want to get to those explosive plays. They haven't been able to the last 3-4 weeks, but they still want to. And so I certainly don't want to give up on that. And given the problems with the 49er pass rush, I'd be almost wild card game at Dallas Chris Carson level pissed if they came out and just tried to ground and pound tomorrow. You got to take some shots. You've got to try to exploit the 49ers' biggest weakness, and that is their pass rush. Osiris, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for the donation. Really appreciate that. This is the perfect yardstick game to see how each team has grown. I predict a humiliating Seahawk lead by the third quarter, sending the fair-weather 49er fans home early. What did I call it last night on Seahawks Syndicate? I think it was 27-16. To me, the key is avoid disaster early. Just avoid disaster early. If you can play a clean first half, but not like Indianapolis Colts clean, like only field goals, like get a scoring drive or two. Don't turn the ball over. Don't hand them a short field. I do think there's an opportunity to pull away so that this one doesn't come down to the last drive or the last play. I do. That's how poor that 49er defense has been playing, and that's how good I feel about our Seahawk defense. They're not going to stop the 49ers. There's too much talent there, and that play caller is elite. But I think they're going to do some things to make life difficult for Brock Purdy. And I do think he's going to throw them the football at some point tomorrow. Hank says Torrey Horton and Rashid Shaheed would be sick. I understand the sentiment, but I'm telling you, if Torrey Horton was healthy, we're not going to see 3 wide receiver sets. We're not going to see 11 personnel. Clint Kubiak's not going to go against his philosophy. He's not going to change what he's doing. So you're likely not going to see much of Horton and Shaheed at all on the field together when Horton is healthy and Shaheed comes back next year, which I expect, unless JSN comes off the field. Maybe occasionally he'll mix that in, but you're not going to see a lot of it. So it's likely going to be a case if Horton was healthy, it would be either or. You rotate those guys in. But I'd like to have all 3. It's just nice to have options next year, right? Misfit says the San Francisco game might be a Shaheed coming out party depending on how they defend JSN. Absolutely. Saw something today. In fact, I wrote it up for Seahawks on SI. And essentially it boils down to this. The 49ers' favorite coverage that Robert Saleh likes to run is quarters, right? For where you take 2 safeties and 2 outside corners, you divide the field into 4s, and they basically are responsible for that 4th. We heard a lot of conversation this year about quarters coverage because the douchebag that used to be on Last Chance U, whose name I won't say because I don't want to give him any extra attention, who now has leaned into being a douchebag and made that his brand and has a huge following on Twitter because of it, and he likes to be controversial, came out and tried to criticize anyone earlier this year who tried to say that the way to beat quarters is with deep post routes. And not just deep post routes, but a combination where you have some crossing routes underneath it to occupy the safety, and it makes it really tough for them to keep up on the deep routes. He called anyone who suggested that an idiot, and yet and then that just brought everybody out of the woodwork. And we're talking some of the elite quarterbacks in the league, guys like Kurt Warner, guys like some of the best analysts out there, guys like Dan Orlovsky, and they just went to town on it. And so all season long, if you've been following that narrative, anytime a long touchdown is scored, or even a big play against quarters coverage, someone's posting it and tagging that dude. But that's their preferred coverage. That's what they like to play. And guess what coverage JSN has eaten like cereal this year? It's quarters coverage. He has compiled a lot of his numbers this year against that type of coverage. And so that'll be really, really interesting to kind of keep tabs on. Hank says, hope to see Kobe. Look, if he's questionable and they think there's any chance he could re-aggravate that, or that he's just not 100% healthy, look, I've come full circle on Ty Okada. Not full circle because I was never out on him. I always thought he was better than fans gave him credit for when he had to make, kind of spot appearances. I think he's better than Kobe Bryant. And with what Quentin Lake just signed his deal for this week in LA, if that's the kind of market Kobe Bryant's going to have, I'm sorry, it's too rich for me. I'm not going to pay you more than Julian Love. I'm going to let you walk. Maybe you get a comp pick for it. Maybe you don't, depending on how aggressive they are in free agency. But they've got 2 years left of control over Ty Okada, where they can put tenders on him and keep him for cheap. I'd offer him a 3-year deal. I would lock up Ty Okada. I think he's better. And then Hank, I see in the comments you mentioned DeAnthony Bell. Remember, he got claimed on waivers this week. He is in Carolina, so we may see him again in a week if things don't go well tomorrow. Charles says, I think Kupp will show up big tomorrow. I would argue I think Kupp shows up big every week. The things he does in the running game and blocking are sometimes hard to quantify. But I do see him. I mean, he had that tough drop against Carolina on the ball in the end zone that I thought should have been pass interference. And he had another drop where the ball bounces off his hands. Derek Brown almost intercepted it right. I think he'll come back strong and have a couple of key third down conversions in this game. Holy Hand Grenade said, even if Shaheed is cleared, which he has been, he's 100% clear of the protocol, good to go. Do you think there will be some lingering ailments? I would say no, because the way the protocol works is to get through the first 3 phases, which is a ramp up to be able to even walk on a treadmill in the gym and then get on the field and do some light football work and then practice, is you have to be symptom free. And so after that walkthrough on Tuesday, they check him again. And if he had any symptoms, he wouldn't have been cleared to practice the next day. He has completely cleared the protocol. And you heard Mike McDonald say that he actually did well in the testing at the game on Sunday. If you remember, when he was walking off the field, they were taking him back to the locker room. You could read his lips. He was telling teammates he was fine. So he just didn't have those severe symptoms. And so, there was a reason to be optimistic as far back as Monday. He was going to get through it. He is clear of the protocol. And to my knowledge, he doesn't have an extensive history of concussions. And so I wouldn't expect there to be any issues there either. Patrick Kimmons, I have a strange feeling of confidence that not only are we going to win, we're going to win going away. That's a bold statement. And I think even as good as the Seahawks defense is, I'm not a betting guy. I wouldn't put money on a blowout because that's how much respect I have for that offense. But my goodness, let's allow ourselves to think about what if. And if that happened, you thought week 16, that overtime win over the Rams, was getting a monkey off your back. This would be a almost an exorcism of ridding yourself of the stigma that can't beat Sean McVay, can't beat Kyle Shanahan, can't beat Matt Stafford, finally did, can't beat Brock Purdy, he's 5-1 against the Seahawks. That would be a massive, massive statement. And I can't imagine if there's one thing that could happen to this team that would send them into the playoffs feeling sky high, it would be that. And when you're talking about a young team with a great mix of veterans, they did a tremendous job this offseason to go out and get Kupp and Lawrence, and those guys have been massive as far as helping build the culture and providing leadership. The scariest teams in any sport are young teams that crest and they start to believe in themselves, and they have talent and youth, and they start to believe they can do anything and beat anyone at any time. Third youngest roster in the league, getting better and better and better as the season goes along. Now the number 1 seed is on the line, something that I didn't expect to be at play. I thought this would be an 11-12 win team, and then we'd be talking about continuity in the offseason on offense, leading to a second-year leap like we saw from the defense this year. Never thought number 1 seed would be at play. Which brings me to this. I teased this earlier, but Mookie Alexander, our buddy from Field Goals, managing editor over there, and of course, 25% of the Seahawks Syndicate, replied to a tweet today. Scott Kasmar said, "Tomorrow's the biggest Seahawks game since the COVID playoffs." To which Mookie said, "Biggest Seahawks regular season game in franchise history, I would argue." And Mookie is a steel trap. He has a massive hard drive, and he remembers things that I struggle to remember. And I've seen every play the Seahawks have ever executed. But this is the context he gives it. This is his argument. They've never had a winner gets the first round bye situation before. They've had situations, obviously, where they've had the number 1 seed at their within their grasp, and they've achieved it. But all of those situations have simply been, well, you just have to win this last game. But it never came against the other team that could get the number 1 seed if they won. And so he continues here. They've had need to win on final day to get the 1 seed twice, but that just meant beating the Jeff Fisher Rams at home. Pretty compelling argument from Mookie that this could very well be the biggest, most important regular season game we've ever seen from the Seahawks. Pretty cool. And that's, it's how I'm trying to approach the game tomorrow, is just try to relax and be free and easy and embrace the opportunity. Understanding that if they get the number 1 seed, they beat this team. Like I just said, it checks so many of the boxes, right? It gets you over that hump, changes the narrative about going up against the Rams and 49ers, but also get you a bye and home field advantage all the way through. You only have to win 2 games to get to the Super Bowl instead of 3, and you get to do it at home in an environment, an atmosphere that seems to be much more advantageous than it's been the last couple of years. And it feels like that old home field advantage in front of the 12s is coming back. And I would expect, if that were the case, those would be the most intense home crowds that we have seen since when was the last home playoff game? Was it 2016, the Panthers game with Cam Chancellor in the pick 6? In fact, wasn't that the game? Didn't all 3 of the primary members of the Legion of Boom have a pick in that game against Cam Newton in Carolina? Didn't Cam have the pick 6? And then Sherm and Earl each had a pick too, didn't they? Am I thinking of the right game? Dateline yesterday says, I get the anxiety, but we're on a mission and we've got this. MOB, baby, mob mentality. Pretty exciting. Pretty damn exciting, right? Patrick Kimmon says, I'm not a Shanahan fan, but he's done an amazing job this season. In my opinion, he should be coach of the year. Like, well, this is the reality. It sucks, but the Seahawks can win 14 games. Mike McDonald's not going to win coach of the year. I think it either goes to Mike Vrabel for bringing the Patriots from the very bottom to the very top, but it should go to Shanahan, because you talk about doing more with less. The injuries that team has had to overcome to key players, star players, after the offseason in which they let 3 of their best defensive players walk out the door. Just a remarkable coaching job from him and Robert Saleh. But I really feel like Kyle Shanahan's grown as a coach. Just a remarkable job from him. Yeah. Flight 266 says, no guts, no glory. Darnold steps on the street and guns him down. That's a big key for me tomorrow. Is I want the Seahawks team to play free and loose and easy. I want them to play with no pressure. They should. There is none. They weren't expected to be here. 49ers were. The preseason, people picked them to either win the division or at least finish second. Nobody picked the Seahawks to finish first in this division. Very few even picked them to finish second. In fact, the majority of national picks that I saw from some of the bigger name analysts out there were between 7 and 9 wins. So nobody expected them to be here. And they're in the playoffs. The worst they can do is have to go play the NFC South winner. They should play with no fear. And I hope Sam plays that way tomorrow too, because when he was really flying high the first 10 weeks, he wasn't playing with any fear. He was leading the league in tight window throws. He hasn't made as many of those recently, unless the game's on the line. And then he comes up big. But I'd like to see him just get going a little bit earlier. Just show us some signs in that first quarter, hit a couple of throws, see a little bit from the running game, of course, to just let him relax. Nothing would be better. This is Captain Obvious as Captain Obvious can be, but they scored on their first drive against the Rams in week 16, went down, scored a touchdown, and it obviously played a factor in that game. I think it's really, really huge. If they could score on their first offensive possession in this game, that'd be a big deal. I mean, I'm not going to get into all this troll stuff that's in there right now, but Real Jackson says Darnold has failed on several other teams, including the Vikings just last season. He won 14 games. He's won 27 games the last 2 years. No one else has. Only 5 other quarterbacks have ever done that in their history, and all 5 of the other guys that have won that many games in back-to-back seasons have done it for the same team. Continuity, same scheme, same head coach. He went from a Minnesota Vikings team, and oh yeah, did he fail? 4 of their 5 offensive linemen were out in that Rams game. No Christian Darrisaw. That entire interior offensive line, they let them all walk in free agency. They just showed him the door. They went out and spent over $120 million to bring in Ryan Kelly and Will Fries. That's the shape of that offensive line going against that Rams defense. It was red hot last year. And then he takes a team with 6 new offensive starters, including himself, brand new play caller, brand new offensive line coach, brand new quarterback coach, brand new run game coordinator, brand new running backs coach, and led them to 13 and possibly 14 wins. And he's done it with big time throws at the end of games against good opponents in big moments. So if you're going to try to argue otherwise, just look yourself in the mirror or look at me and just say, I just don't like him. And so I can't say anything nice about him. That's honest. It's not good analysis, but that's honest. And then, you know what? Screw it. I'll just put it up here. I try to keep my shows positive, right? If you're using words like this, you're in 7th grade and you should probably go to bed. You excuse yourself from real football debates and conversation and analysis. You just do. You're 12. You want to talk football? Let's talk football. I will sit for hours and talk to opposing fans and content creators and be as objective as anyone. I'm capable of looking at another team and recognizing them for how good they are. I've done it already in this show. In the last 45 minutes and 46 seconds, I've said a lot of good things about the 49ers. I'm capable of acknowledging that the other team has some good things going. Anyone who's ever going to sit in week 17 and try to tell you that a 13-win team stinks, frauds, overrated, quarterback can't play, they simply don't know football and excuse themselves from the conversation. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Yeah. Like there's so much immaturity and just bullshit in these comments. I'm not going to put it on the screen. Grow the fuck up. Seriously. And some of that's coming from you Seahawks fans too. Which I will say one other little soapbox thing. You know, you hear it. You hear it everywhere. Every fan base thinks every other fan base is garbage. This fan base is the worst fan base in the league. This is fan base. They all are. Everybody. There are segments of every fan base that are immature, sophomoric, childish, and it's exemplified on Twitter. The spotlight's on them. Doesn't mean the whole fan base is that way, and you're an idiot if you think so. Ooh, I like this 208p. Where to go? Where to go? Where to go? Did I just miss it? Here it is. AJ Barner's a huge X factor. He should play a big role down the stretch, in my opinion. I'll say this, 208. I want to see AJ get involved early. I think that would be a huge part of Kubiak's opening script is get him going. Show that to the 49ers because he has been really, really good at coming up with big catches, and he's especially come up late in games. Let's get him going early. Oh, I like this analogy, Misfit. Kupp is our Horace Grant, does the dirty work, glues the team together. I'll take it a step further. I've had a lot of Seahawks fans even say they don't expect to see him on the roster in 2026 because there's a cap savings if you cut him. I think his presence on the roster is so valuable. I also, that you find a way, well, you don't find a way. It's easy. I've done the breakdown before. I've done a whole episode on it. We'll dive into it more when the season's over. The Seahawks can easily get to about $100 million in cap space without getting rid of any players that they need on the roster next year to succeed. You can keep Cooper Kupp at his current contract, but I don't think you'll have to. I think he wants to end his career here. I think he loves it here. Obviously, he's close to his family. He loves the culture here. He's a big part of it. And I think he would be willing to redo his deal, basically take a pay cut, similar to what we saw Tyler Lockett do his last year in Seattle. They can add a couple void years, do some of that to lessen some of the dead money in the cap hit. But I absolutely see him being on the team next year in a very similar role. Yeah, someone called it rage bait. Look, it's people who talk the way some of the people in the comments are talking. First of all, I don't understand. I don't think they love sport. I don't think they love football or the beauty of what sport is, which is the greatest unscripted entertainment in the world. They don't love the ups and downs and the adrenaline rush and the serotonin rushes. They like sports because it's tribal, and it gives them an opportunity to pound their chest and stand over people and taunt people and try to be better than people. And I don't understand that mindset. I just don't. I don't subscribe to it. I don't like it. I don't entertain it. I think it's dumb. I really do. Let's see. Rampancy. This is always kind of an interesting question. Okay, but here's the question. Would you rather lose the West tomorrow, but beat the Niners along the way to play in the Super Bowl? The scenario is 50-50 if you win. Maybe this is just me being older and wiser and maturing as I get older, because trust me, 20 years ago, I was as out of control and over emotional and overreactive to wins and losses as the next guy. I don't care who they beat on the way to a championship. I don't. They don't have to beat this team because of this or this team because of this. Just win the games, bring home the trophy. That's all I care about. I like this idea. Brentioendo, Kupp, please become our wide receiver coach. I could absolutely see Cooper Kupp starting out as a wide receiver coach, and then within 3 or 4 years becoming an offensive coordinator and a hot young coach in this league. Now, that being said, I'd be surprised if that's what he wants to do. He's a family guy. He's made a shit ton of money in his career. He never has to go into broadcasting if he doesn't want to, or work another day in his life, I'm quite sure. Especially living in Yakima, you can live pretty cheaply over there if that's where he chooses to retire near his family. But I would love to see that. That would be really, really cool. And he fits the profile. I mean, this is a guy that, we always hear about how he sits in on quarterback meetings. That is extremely rare for non-quarterbacks to do. All right, this is going to piss some of you off, but I'm going to do it anyway. Just trust me on this. I said we're going to be wide open for questions on this, right? Jaimes asks, Dan, what are the chances the Seahawks draft a running back? They only have 4 picks, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 6th. And I'm perfectly willing to entertain draft questions. We're going to again, great time to remind you all that we are going to the Senior Bowl the entire week. We'll be down there from Monday through Sunday through the game. And when I say we, it's myself. I was able to go by myself last year, but Bryce Coutts and Brandon Cain of the Hawks Nest along with me, 3/4 of the Seahawks Syndicate. Mookie's not going to be able to make it, but we'll get him in there virtually. We're going to be able to really dig in and watch all the practices, interview the players, watch the game, start breaking down some prospects. I haven't dove into a lot of in-depth prospect tape yet. I will be doing that over the next few weeks. And I start with who I'm going to see at the Senior Bowl, and then I branch out from there. But I think it's surprisingly possible that the Seahawks draft a running back, especially if they let Kenneth Walker walk in free agency. I don't believe the perfect running back for this scheme or for their preferences is on the roster. I think if you took Zach Charbonnet and Ken Walker and put them in a lab, you would create the perfect running back. But if there's an opportunity and the right guy is there and the value's right, depending on what the rest of the roster looks like and other needs, of course, I think there's a good chance they draft a running back, because I don't think they feel like they've got the perfect guy that they want to really, really make this offense rock. Randy McDaniel, good to see you. A lot of great questions last night in the Seahawks Syndicate. It's clear Niner fans know their window is closing and they didn't win a thing. They harp on Sam because they know we own their soul when we have a quarterback. I'm going to push back, Randy. We talked about this on the show last night. Here you go. Here's another one. Randy says, Randy lives in Yakima. Cost of living is tremendous. I can appreciate that, certainly. Let's go back to your former one, though, because I did want to comment on this. Their window's not closing at all. In fact, when you look at how good this division is, and, Rams, 49ers, Seahawks, it's not going to end anytime soon. All 3 of those teams have extremely young rosters. They have cap space, and they have cap space moving forward. All 3 of those teams are in top 10, top 12 in the league in 2026 available cap space, and they have other levers they can pull on their roster to clear more. These teams are going to be competitive for a long damn time. The 49ers window might just be opening, because even though I would expect them to lose Robert Saleh this offseason, they're going to go out and be aggressive in adding to that defense, and they'll be able to because they have a bunch of cap space. And don't forget about the young guys that are coming back. I mean, obviously Nick Bosa will be back next year, but Michael Williams, their first round pick this year, he'll be back. They've got an opportunity to right the ship. Obviously, Fred Warner will be back again next year too. Their window, as much as you'd like to think it is not closing anytime soon. John says it's not supposed to be a real good draft class. Thanks for asking this. I love talking about this concept. Forget about that whole idea. Don't listen to anyone when they tell you it's a bad draft class. Is it as good as 2023 or 22? Yeah, no, especially not at the top. But there's depth. And every single season, there are players to be had in that draft that can help make you a championship team. It's about the work that you do grinding away at tape and your organization and your scouting staff, which the Seahawks have one of the best in the league at finding the right fits for you. It's about doing the proper work in free agency to get there, to hedge the needs that you feel like you have when you start to match it up and get a better feel for the draft class and where the strengths and weaknesses are as far as which position groups there are. Like, this is not a great year to need a quarterback. So kudos to the Seahawks for taking Jalen Milroe last year. They've got a better chance, I think, to develop him in 2 or 3 years than most of the quarterbacks coming out in this class would give them. Kudos to them for taking Gray Zabel and addressing that at the top of the draft on the interior offensive line last year, because it's not a good offensive line class. It is a good corner class. They're going to need a corner. Josh Jobe is on a 1-year deal. Reek Woolen, we'll see if he comes back or not. Nehemiah Pritchett's the only other corner under contract, so it's a good class for that. There are some really intriguing inside linebackers in this class. It's a very good pass rushing class, and it seems to be getting better and better as we get closer to the draft. Different shapes and sizes, not a lot of like prototypical long beastly edges like you'd like. It's going to be kind of like pick your flavor, but it's a good pass rushing class. And with Boye Mafe, I think, walking after this offseason, DeMarcus Lawrence will be 33 years old. Derek Hall will be due for a contract extension. And it's a very good defensive tackle class too. So, and that's something I hope they dip into. I know people tell me all the time, anytime I mention defensive tackle, they tell me I'm crazy, that we're fine. We're not fine. Jaron Reed's going to be 33 years old. Mike Morris is what he is. He hasn't developed. He hasn't become that guy. And Byron Murphy, yet again, he's playing it at an elite level, but he's having to play way too much nose tackle, way too much 1-and-0 technique, taking on double teams. I want a young dude. Brandon Peely's not that guy. He's a role player. He's a situational guy, and he's come up with some plays, but he's not going to be that guy. But this class has a lot of true nose tackles, and some with a little bit more upside than just being a run stuffer. And they're layered throughout the draft. It appears now, 4 months from now, things could look different, better or worse, right? It's always fool's gold to make big declarative statements now, this far out from the draft, about what the draft is or isn't. But it's a very good defensive tackle class. They could go get a guy to pair with Byron Murphy. If you could free him up to play 3-tech full time, we're talking double-digit sacks on a yearly basis. So yeah, I want a defensive tackle out of this class for sure. Randy checking in again. Trent gone. Is that official yet? Have they ruled him out? Oh, I see what you're saying. You're talking about next year. Yeah, that's big, and they haven't addressed it. I thought when they drafted Ricky Pearsall in the first round 2 years ago, they made a huge whiff by not taking a tackle then, by not thinking ahead. Because there's, Colton McKivitz is a pretty polarizing player on the right side too. And that was a very good offensive tackle class. I thought they missed there. But like I said, they have enough cap space. They can go out and sign a guy if they want to, or they could target it early in the draft. They'll find guys. And we've also seen Kyle Shanahan succeed with backup running backs when CMC's hurt. So I'm telling you, that coach is always going to have that team competitive. They got a bunch of young talent on defense, and they have cap space. So do not count the 49ers out at all. Yeah. Let's see. I mean, Holy Hand Grenade says dream scenarios, Rams and Niners get bounced round one. So then you're not worried about the teams that were good enough to beat the Rams or 49ers? We're talking about the Eagles, talking about the Bears here. That would concern me. It's never that simple. Never that simple. Patrick Kimmon says if the Niners go back to Philly or Chicago, they'll be out in the first round. Philly, I would favor Philly over the 49ers because Philly's offense has been inconsistent, but the Niners defense is so bad that I think the Eagles would pretty much have their way. That would be a tough. I would favor the Eagles in that game. Bears, I mean, tell me what the weather's going to be like, I guess, but that Bears defense is terrible. And I think Caleb Williams, being in the postseason for the first time, I might take the Niners against Chicago there. Yeah, Jordan says if we get a true nose tackle, Murphy and Mills will probably be our future. Well, Murphy already is. Mills has shown some interesting stuff on tape. Like, you see the good and the bad. And by the bad, I mean he's playing his first football in the league and trying to get his feet under him after missing 11 months to an ACL injury. You see him lunging at times. You see him kind of losing his balance. But there's a first step there. He's got some real legit first step quickness. And I find it interesting that they have played him at big end a couple of times, but primarily they've played him at 3 technique. So that could be an interesting combo with him and Murphy too. I really like the idea that Mills can move all around the line. Yet another reason. Let's get a big run stuffing defensive tackle in there. Look, I've done some mock drafts where even when the Seahawks are picking 30th, 31st, 32nd, and Caden McDonald is there from Ohio State. He's a dude that absolutely can 2-gap, and he can take on double teams, and he's got some pass rush upside. And those types of guys that are mostly run stuffers, that aren't high-end elite pass rushers from the defensive tackle position, those guys tend to last until the end of the first round, sometimes early second. Jaron Reed fit that profile. You know, he had the 10.5 sacks his third year with the Seahawks, but coming out of Alabama, he was known as a run stuffer. And that's why the Seahawks were shocked and thrilled that he fell to him in the second round, because those guys that are known mostly as nose tackles don't typically go all that high. To be fair, Jaimes says Riley Mills already better than Mike Morris. Yeah, I think you're right. The upside is much, much greater. If the Seahawks do what I want them to do this offseason in their roster building, Mike Morris won't make the team next year. They'll have somebody better. I think he's to steal a baseball term, I consider him a replacement level player. You can find Mike Morris's in free agency for cheap every offseason. Yeah, it doesn't. We've got people talking about the weather in here. It doesn't sound like it's going to be an issue. It sounds like very, very light rain, sprinkle, winds 10 to 15 miles an hour, but not certainly not what the Seahawks and Rams faced in Week 16. Osiris here. Will McVay and Stafford retire together? This is something we talked about on the Syndicate last night. I don't think they'll plan it that way, but I think when Stafford announces he's done, McVay will consider what he wants to do. If there's a path to getting a quarterback that he thinks can take the baton and keep them playing at that level, then maybe he sticks around. But remember, 2 years ago, McVay kind of had one foot out the door. There's a lot of talk he was going to get a bunch of money to go into broadcasting, and that maybe he wanted a new challenge. He would step away for a while and then maybe come back, could write his own check, right? It's a great working relationship there. He and Les Snead are a great team. It's a great situation in LA. He's kind of a California dude, right? Didn't he marry a model? And so that suits him. But I do wonder when Stafford decides to call it quits, I think McVay will at least take some time to consider what he wants to do next. All right, you guys. Well, let me do this. I want to promote a couple of things. First of all, I know there's a lot of content to get to, and the tricky part during the season is once the game comes, all the content before the game kind of expires. I did something today and sent it into my agency in the hopes of picking up a couple of promotions in the off season to make things more sustainable for me as a full-time independent content creator. And I took a screenshot of my numbers from February 1st through April, so 90-day period, which encompassed all the offseason moves being made, free agency, and the draft, and then compared them to the last 90 days where the Seahawks were winning 13 games and putting themselves in this position. And the numbers were almost double the beginning of the year. Like I do more traffic during draft season. And so, hold on. If you're going to spam the channel, you're going to get blocked. It's literally, it's that simple. It really is. I mean, seriously, grow up. I don't understand the appeal of that. Scotty WD, thank you so much for the $9.99 donation. 49er fan since 1981 here. I'm disappointed both fan bases have a lot of unsportsmanlike talk, wishing injuries and other crap. Let's hope both teams play their best and may the best team win. You and I are on the same page, man. That's just how I view football. I want to play the best at their best. That's how you iron sharpens iron. That's how you find out if you're a champion or not. I do think it's a very small segment of the fan base. It's just that that's what we see because they're the loudest online. It's from a place of insecurity. It really, really is. Boyette Pogi, I guess I'm saying that right. Thank you for the donation. Appreciate it. If Sam Darnold can't get it done this season, you guys might take a look for Lamar Jackson situation. Good luck tomorrow. Bang, bang, Niner gain. Let's hope for a good game, man. I think it's going to be high drama. And I couldn't disagree more. Tomorrow's game isn't going to determine Sam Darnold's future at all. They've got their quarterback. There's no better options out there for the next couple of years. I would expect him to be better next year because, again, you come back with that entire coaching staff again, all the continuity. You bring back that offensive line pretty much intact. They're going to go upgrade either center or right guard. They're going to be even better next year up front, I believe. Rashid Shaheed for a full season, Torrey Horton healthy, AJ Barner with another year development, Elijah Arroyo. I think that kind of continuity, you can expect a little bit of a leap next year. And then we'll see what happens in 2 or 3 years. You know, if Sam levels off and there's the hump that they can't quite get over in their championship window, then let's see how Jalen Milroe develops in the background, because he exhibits a lot of traits that some other quarterbacks who are doing really well in this league and making a lot of money, and a couple of guys that are about to make a lot of money. Like, I used to comp him to Jalen Hurts. I don't anymore. I think he's Malik Willis. I didn't think Willis had a shot to be an NFL quarterback at all when I scouted him in his draft and studied him. And remember that year, the Seahawks had the 5th pick. It's when they took Devin Witherspoon, and there was a lot of mock drafts early in the process that had the Seahawks taking him because we had just traded Russ, right? He was terrible in Tennessee. I saw a guy that was that had no accuracy and was just an athlete. But he has turned into a complete quarterback. It just goes to show how good quarterback development can be in a healthy, functional situation with people that know what they're doing. But I see some similarities there. So we'll see what happens 2-3 years from now. Let's see. Okay. I wanted to make sure that I was all caught up on those. Yeah, Three Guns Deep says Malik Willis might be somebody teams are looking at this year. Also, he's played well for the Packers. I think he's a free agent at the end of this year. I think he's going to make good money in the offseason. Somebody said the other day, this isn't an original thought for me, so I don't want to claim it, that they thought the Justin Fields contract was his floor. So what was that? 2 years, $30 million, right? I could see that. And the beauty of being a free agent at this point in his career and still being young is you get to pick your landing spot, right? I've heard people say the Raiders should do that. Go sign Malik Willis and then use your draft capital to build the trenches up. I could get behind that, but tell me who the coaching staff's going to be. So if I'm the Raiders, if I'm Tom Brady or whatever, and I'm advising Mark Davis, maybe you hire Adam Stenovich, the longtime offensive coordinator there, a guy who's played a crucial role in Willis's development. Maybe hire him as your head coach. Then you go sign Malik Willis. That's the kind of continuity that I think you need to help develop. It'd be very similar to what happened here when Mike Holmgren got the job in 2001, and then they traded for Matt Hasselbeck, who was a third stringer at the time for Green Bay. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah, 2 years, $40 million. I think you're right. Yeah, it'd be interesting. I'm never afraid to admit when I'm wrong, either about a quarterback I liked who doesn't turn out to be good, and vice versa. And Willis is a guy that I was wrong on. But it just goes to show you, players are allowed to get better. Players can get better. They can grow. They can develop. All right, you guys. We're an hour 10 in. Nice little turnout. Really appreciate you being here. Let me tell you what's going on tomorrow. Oh, first of all, that's where I was going to go. Started a thought earlier and then got off on lost my way. If you do have a chance, you're looking for some content tomorrow because you just can't watch the clock count down slowly enough and you want to get to game time, check out our Syndicate episode from last night with all the guys. Check out the NFC West mixtape with Rob Guerrera from the Gold Standard Network. We do a full preview of the game. Did a video on the golden opportunity that is presented to Sam Darnold. And then Bryce Coutts and I, he of the coaching background, we did our weekly film breakdown, all 22 tape study, the Hawks Film Lab, where we take a look at the Seahawks running game and whether or not we can trust it as we get into these crucial games and get into the playoffs. All of those links are down below in the description if you just want to go straight to the video. And then tomorrow, don't know what you guys are doing, but maybe come hang out with us because Bryce and I, let me take this off the screen. Hold on. I always forget to do that. Bryce and I are going to do a live watch party. Haven't done one of these in a while. So we're going to start at 7:40 Eastern time, 4:40 Pacific. We're going to, we can't broadcast the game to you. Obviously, both of our YouTube channels would get shut down if we did that, but we'll all be watching the game off screen. And then we'll follow it together. We're going to start 20 minutes before kickoff, do a little pregame, set the stage, get the injury latest and the actives and inactives. And then once we get into the game, we'll essentially call the action. So if you can't get to a TV, you just want to follow us on your phone or something like that. I'm going to try and knock the old rust off and brush off the old play-by-play chops and see how those are and call the action. And then I've got Bryce right there with his offensive coordinator and quarterback coach background to provide analysis. And then we're just going to roll straight from that straight into the post-game show. So really excited about that. That's going to be a lot of fun. Join us for that. And then I see Osiris down here. Just want to let you guys know a couple of things. Let me promote a couple of things here before I go. First of all, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. It's the best way to support me. Doesn't cost you a penny, but it helps let the YouTube algorithm know what this is, what this content is based on your preferences, and puts it out in front of more people who might like it. And that ultimately allows me to try and make a better living doing this because sometimes it is touch and go. Coming up on my first full year of doing this, and it has its ups and downs. So there's that. All the other more tangible ways that you can support me and the channel are listed and linked down below, including the Patreon, where for just $10 a month, you get everything that I do, all the videos, the audio podcasts, Mariners content when I create that on Mariners Forever, my Substack writing, our Discord channel where we stay in touch all week long, and we also do some in-game chats. And you don't get the YouTube inserted ads over there either. You'll also get the opportunity to choose a video topic that I do each and every month. Last month it was, hey, what's going on with Chris Paul out of Ole Miss, the 5th round draft pick that we sniped off the Rams when they tried to pass him through waivers to cut down to 53. Did an update on that. This month, the chosen topic is non-football. It's my top favorite. I'm a rock music aficionado and fan. And what was chosen for me by you, by the members, is my top 10, my favorite top 10 guitar solos of all time. And so I spent today putting that list together. I think I'll tweak it a couple more times. And that video is only going to be available on Patreon. because it's a little too risky to try. I want to play some little clips of those solos, and you can get in some copyright trouble if you do that on YouTube. So look for that. That should be fun. Check that out. You can also get there if you don't just want to search for the show on Patreon. You can get there directly by going to the URL nwforever.com. That stands for Northwest Forever. And then see these guys right down here. If you're looking for a cool place to watch the game tomorrow, and you want to watch it on a big giant screen and drink some of the best beer in Seattle and eat some of the best handmade pizzas in Seattle, go to Fast Fashion Brewing on First Avenue in Soto, across the street from Showbox Soto, right next door to Hooverville. They've got pitcher and pizza specials during the game tomorrow. Try to get there early. Say hi to Matt Storm for me. Real proud to have them aboard as a sponsor. And remember the Wolf Moon tomorrow. What does it do? It favors, symbolically, based on folklore, it favors survival football. Sometimes maybe that means surviving our inconsistent offense. Maybe it means surviving another Sam Darnold turnover. Discipline, timing, opportunism. The Wolf Moon doesn't favor the loudest pack. It favors the sharpest hunter. Thank you so much, you guys. Here, let's take us out with a little bit of music, as I usually do. Follow me on Twitter at Seahawks Forever. Try to get some sleep. I might need a little help doing that tonight, if you know what I mean. It feels like Christmas tomorrow, doesn't it? Like you try to go to sleep early so it comes faster, but falling asleep isn't always all that easy either, is it? Can't wait to see you all tomorrow on the watch party. Join me there for that, and let's go. Let's just enjoy this, man. This is what sports are about. Don't worry about what might happen. Dream about what can happen. It's the roller coaster. It's the highs. It's experiencing the lows so you can celebrate the highs. And let's hope there's a big one tomorrow. All right. Forever and always go Hawks. Thanks, you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.